The image that kept coming into my mind was a memory of a small boy being left alone on a deserted strip of tarmac, watching a plane flying off in the distance without him. That small boy was me. On all my journeys to and from school, I was unaccompanied. On this particular occasion, I was flying alone to Lagos, just me and my small suitcase sitting in the departure lounge, waiting nervously for my flight to be called. I was flying Nigeria Airways. A confirmed ticket never guaranteed you a seat on the plane. But in my innocence, I didn't know how it all worked. When the airport staff announced the plane was ready for boarding, there was suddenly a mad scramble as the more experienced passengers leapt to their feet and dashed out to get on board. As I struggled towards the plane with my suitcase, I was elbowed out of the way by many people, much bigger and stronger than me. By the time I reached the bottom of the steps to the plane, the door at the top had been slammed shut, all the seats having been filled. As I stood with my suitcase, watching the plane take off without me, tears streamed down my face, and I vowed that never again would I be left behind on the tarmac. Hello there, everyone. I'm your host, Ike Osakieduwa. Allow me to welcome all our esteemed guests to this auspicious occasion. I'm here to take you on a remarkable journey, a journey encompassing one small boy's lifetime, a lifetime of passion, faith, and commitment. A lifetime we'll explore as we visit various chapters of Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede's reflections on buying a bank in Africa. A journey we begin with a tribute to our beloved land, our national anthem.
Guide our leaders.
Segun Obe and Chi there, reminding us that no matter how far we travel, we'll always be inextricably linked to our beloved homeland. Now, we all love to be told a good story, but a story well told needs an author who understands the material. Now, what Aig has done with his book is make banking accessible. He's made entrepreneurship captivating, but mostly, he has inspired, digging deep into his own personal experience to reveal the human side of doing business. The fear he had to face, the hard work, the sacrifice. He has also shared the source from which he derived his strength and taken the time to say thank you. In his own words, I say this knowing as I do that while we are very capable, several of the milestones you will read about in this book did not happen of our making. There are too many unexplained coincidences, accidents of timing, events of chance that can only be attributed to the Almighty. We simply rose to the challenge and got on with it. And at the end of the day, God did the rest. And so in celebration of that fact that God made a way, we bring you Sinach with her glorious version of Waymaker.
I worship you, I worship you. You are here, rearranging destinies. I worship you, I worship you. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. Every I worship you. I worship you. Oh, we call you Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who you are. We call you Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who you are. You wipe away all tears. You mend a broken heart. You're the answer to it all. Jesus, you wipe away all tears. Mend a broken heart. You're the answer to it all, to it all. Jesus, we call it Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who you are. Oh, we call it Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who you are. Yeah. It's working in your favor. It's working in my favor. All things are working for my good. Oh, declare it. It's working in my favor. It's working in my favor. All things are working for my good. Say it's working in my favor. It's working in my trials are working for your good. That mountain is working for your good. The word of God is working in your favor. Say all things are working for my good.
Absolutely lovely. Who wouldn't be moved by such a heartfelt expression of thanks? Aigboje states that it's his belief God endows each of us with different skills and talents, and that you have to pray to recognize these and be able to improve on them and work on them to the best of your ability. As an author, you could write a book and publish that book, but without readers, a book is just a collection of pages on a shelf. It's only once the pages have been opened, read, and absorbed that an author can claim to have made impact. Today, you can judge for yourself the impact that this particular book has had on a variety of readers who have very kindly taken time to put their thoughts on the page.
Leaving the Tarmac leaves no one in doubt that navigating the waters of the banking sector in Nigeria is a daunting task not for the faint-hearted. Aig is a leader with determination and integrity. He gives meaning to grit and authenticity, taking us on a journey that closes the gap between harsh reality and one's aspiration, and giving young Nigerians, especially women in the finance sector, the inspiration to dream, weather the storm, and achieve greatness. I recommend the book to all who want to get an inside view of what it takes to create and grow a successful business in Nigeria's challenging but opportunity-laden business environment.
Written with brutal honesty, lucidity, and humility. The principles in this book are sound, practical, and pragmatic, drawn out of the deep wells of personal experience and inked with sincerity, honest rendition, and transparency on what worked and did not work to help others. One of the best business books I have ever read. Easy to read, transformational, memorable, golden.
A powerful tale of leadership and institution building amidst weak regulatory institutions and a changing cast of politicians, central bank governors, and competitors. I loved reading this book.
I robustly recommend Leaving the Tarmac as a must-read across all sectors. For leaders who are at the cutting edge of significant breakthroughs for their businesses, this is a manual. The wealth of experience and candor displayed by the writer speaks to what matters most to his heart: sustainable African development. An insider's view of the meticulous planning, sheer hard work, resilience, and grit that produced the modern Access Bank. A high-octane blend of professionalism, ambition, and discipline.
My apologies. I was just reading the book, and like all the endorsements you just heard tell you, it's a bit of a page-turner. Beyond bribes, leakages, and theft of public funds, the truly debilitating consequence of corruption is the fact that any nation where corruption is rife, merit cannot have its way. Corruption has implanted the virus of mediocrity in several aspects of Nigerian life, to the point where our performance in many fields of endeavor is much worse today than it was 50 years ago. Words so true and so powerful from a man who's clearly not averse to speaking his mind. So, without any further ado, let's hear from him, our author, Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede. He'll be in conversation with Dr. Uzodinma Iweala, the CEO of Africa Center in New York. Dr. Iweala is a medical doctor, but also an author himself. He's published 2 acclaimed novels, Speak No Evil and Beast of No Nation. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good day to all our attendees. I'm Uzodinma Iweala, and it's my privilege today to be here in New York talking to Mr. Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede in London about his latest achievement, his new book, Leaving the Tarmac, which tells the story of how he built Access Bank. Today, we'll be discussing how his book came about, what it means to publish at this time, and his plans for the future. Aig, it's good to see you. This is a fascinating and wonderful book that really gets deep into your journey as a businessman, as a person, really, especially when it comes to building Access Bank. What made you write this memoir at this time?
Thanks, Uzo, and it's great to see you. You're looking very well.
Thank you very much.
On a personal note, I think the first thing is that I left Access Bank. I retired as CEO in 2013, and I knew that I needed time off just to recharge my battery, so to speak. I didn't think I would have more than a year and a half before my perpetual motion character, kind of took over once again. And so I wanted to use that period as productively as possible. So I had a year and a half, and what better to do in a year and a half, than write a book. And for me, it was an opportunity, for posterity to tell the story to my children in a structured sense, because before then, I just hadn't had the opportunity to sit down with my kids and say, this is what I did today, or this is what I did yesterday, and these are the highs and the lows of this journey. Herbert and I went through a hell of an experience between 2002 and 2013. And for him, that experience has continued. We learned so much. We were exposed to so many things. We had really, really great mountains that we climbed. We scaled some pretty high heights and so on. And in a sense, it would be very selfish of us to, lock this up in a box and not share it with others, because I think our experience, can be used by any other person who has an ambition to go out there and do, whatever it is they seek, whatever it is they dream about. And so the notion of writing for posterity and recording this period in my life, and probably more important, the notion of preparing a way for others, those are the things that drove me to write the book.
Now, when we read this book, you take us way back to a moment in your childhood, which is one of the salient points of the book. I mean, when people see you now, you are the high-flying, successful businessman, but really for you, this starts way, way earlier. Can you tell us about that moment where you found yourself standing on an airplane tarmac watching a plane fly away?
So, Uzo, like many children, there is this moment in your life where innocence is taken from you. And I think for me, the story of going to the airport when I was flying back home from school in Kaduna, unaccompanied, and seeing firsthand and feeling firsthand what it meant to suffer at the hands of a corrupt system. And despite the fact that I had a confirmed ticket to go home, and I was at the airport early, and I was subjected to this, really, really, really cruel discovery that, that didn't count. You've got to fight. You've got to fight a system that sells more tickets than you have seats on the plane. And it doesn't matter if you're a 10-year-old or you're an 80-year-old, we subjected ourselves to this type of system. And, and I fought. And I didn't get on the plane. And, I was on the tarmac. And I saw the plane leave, Mm-hmm. And I tell people, all of them are expecting to hear me say, I really felt bad I wasn't going home. But I just said to myself, never again. Never again will a system like this, leave me standing on the tarmac. And that's the title. That's the title of the book.
And so from there, that ambition to make sure that you were not left behind again blossomed into ambition to make sure that no one was left behind, to really bring excellence to a space that severely needed it.
It's great that you asked that question, and I really enjoy the fact that you are the one asking me questions with my first book. You're a writer yourself. You write very well, there was one thing that I said to myself I wouldn't do, and I wouldn't learn how to cheat well. I wouldn't learn how to beat down people well. I wouldn't learn how to be great at the corruption game. I felt that, there is a way to make sure that you don't remain on the tarmac, respecting the law, respecting the other human being, competing fairly. And so, in a sense, this story is about how Herbert and I put together a group of people and said, let's create a unique organization that pursues excellence in every ramification, but then at the same time convinces Nigerians, starting with those who we work with, that we don't need to cheat to win.
Right. And I'm interested, though, it's now 2021, and you started penning this memoir, this story, in 2015. Why so long between 2015 and 2021 to put your story out into the world, the story of Access Bank out into the world?
A number of reasons. One, I will not share. I think I'll reserve that for when I actually write a book about my life, about the intricacies, if you like, of my life. You'll note that the book is really very much focused on my career as a banker and my time at Access Bank. Yeah, early on, the formative years as a young, adolescent male growing up in Nigeria. But in terms of timing, the first is that, I felt that Herbert needed space, and even though the book was ready, in a sense, I wanted to wait and give him time to really settle into the job, and how he has settled into the job. And Herbert's book, I'm sure, is going to be on the way not very soon. The other reason why I delayed was that I kind of was in two minds about what I noticed was going on in Nigeria. And I was like, is this the book to, in a sense, give Nigeria the nudge at this time? Or did I need to come at these issues a different way? But then the more, I reflected and the more I see what is happening in Nigeria, I think the message to Nigeria should be that, let's not be left on the tarmac collectively as a people. How do we get our act together and make sure that if the analogy of a plane taking off is this world, moving from third world to second to first, moving into the 21st century, moving into a digital future, how do we make sure Nigeria is on that plane in a front seat, prepared, to really, 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 really take its place in the world? And that's why I think, it's a good time now for me to share this book with the world.
Yeah. And there's so many stories in this book that take us into the intricacies of building what is a crazy 12 years, 13 years, 15 years even of ups and downs, of learnings as you were building the bank. Is there anything that stands out in particular for you that you might want to share with us right now for those who haven't read the book yet?
Without a doubt, I was very blessed. So in the book, not once, maybe more than 2 or 3 times, I allude to the fact that it's not about me, and it's not about Herbert. It's about the Almighty. There are too many coincidences. There are too many accidents of good fortune. There are too many unexplainable events, that allowed this story to happen. We were blessed, we were privileged, and we were, for somebody who's in spiritual, you might say we were very lucky. One thing I would tell anybody who's embarking on this type of journey is, if you rely on luck, go make your luck happen. If, like me, you rely on God, make sure you have a relationship with God that where God matters, So, the role of God in this whole story is, of course, immense. Family, without my wife, without my children, and without my parents, my in-laws. My brother-in-law was the one who, he's late now, he just left his MBA at Harvard Business School when I was doing a 3-month program. And he was the one who gave me a book, called Buyout, which I read 3 times the same day he gave me that book. And that's what inspired me to go off and go buy a bank. Family. Then, of course, friendship and partnership. That's the relationship between, Herbert and I. Then being in the right place at the right time. It was very important that we were in the sweet spot of what I call the Nigerian Renaissance. That period between 1999 and, 2007, when, in a sense, all things came, together. Talented people in government, really entrepreneurial young men and women. And we all had this point to prove to the world that Nigeria, could get its act together. So, these are the things that the book tells you about.
Right. Well, I'm not going to make you get too deep into it because I think people really need to pick this book up, read it through and through, read it 3 times even in the first sitting, get their highlighters out and take some real notes and lessons. But I will ask you, what's next? You've taken a step back from the bank, but there are multiple other projects. What are we to expect from you in the coming years?
Thanks, Uzo. Well, you know me, I kind of don't stop. And I'm extremely entrepreneurial in my approach to life. So, in a strange way, the chapter on Access Bank is certainly not my last chapter, and I never intended it to be. And I took a break for 1.5 years after I left Access Bank. In that period, I went back to school to do an executive MBA. I wanted to be in a classroom with people your age, Uzo. I wanted to relearn again, and I wanted to come down to earth. Being the CEO of a fast-growing bank in Africa can kind of give you a false sense of your of worth, if you like. And I needed to come down to earth, and I wrote the book. But most important, I'm a thinking person. I believe that my most productive outcomes as a result of the amount of investment I make in thinking and preparing. And, so I asked myself, what would you want to do with the rest of your life? And the answer came in 3 dimensions. The first was my family. And I made a number of mistakes between 2001 and 2013 when I left the bank with respect to relationships with my children. And when I say mistakes, I mean, I'm not speaking in the sense that I'm perfect and I seek perfection, just simply in the fact that I didn't give them the time I should have. And I'm not even speaking from even just their perspective, even mine. The effect on me when I am with my children, when they're around me, is so calming. So it takes me to just a whole new level of productivity and awareness. Time with my wife, of course. Time, if you like, to in a sense, pay her back for all the sacrifices she made, for my career. And so there are 2 things that I'm doing. The first and probably more important one is the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation. And simply put, I feel that Nigeria is right now on the tarmac. And we've been left on the tarmac too long. And the principal reason that we're left on the tarmac is that we need a critical mass of men and women, gifted men and women, leading government in roles across government. And I'm not talking about tens, and I'm not talking about hundreds. I'm thinking about thousands. And they're there. It's not like we don't have gifted men and women in Nigeria. I think we're a high IQ nation. We have, really, really gifted people from a physical standpoint. We have a rich heritage as a nation. And we just need to mobilize these people to work for government, in government, and start thinking and acting in a manner that will make sure that we're in that, in that plane in the air with the rest of the world, moving on well into the next millennium. So the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation is going to be focused on really building capacity in governance, as well as something that is very important to me, which is my role in the healthcare space. And one of the things that I'm really going to spend time doing is trying to improve the lot of Nigerians when it comes to access to quality primary healthcare. So that's the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation. Now, unfortunately, I'm nowhere as wealthy as Aliko Dangote. So I've got to make the money to fund this dream. So I can't stop working. I don't have enough money to say, here is $2 or $3 billion or $4 billion or whatever it's going to take, and put it aside for that purpose. So I'm going to have to keep working for as long as this Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation dream must be kept alive. And I've done a deal with my family that even when I'm not here, they can't spend it all. It's the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation.
Aig, thank you. It's been fascinating spending this brief amount of time with you. I hope our audience has found our discussion as enlightening as I have. I think what I'll take away from today is the fact that this book is many things. It's informative, it's exciting, it takes us deep into the art of entrepreneurship and Aig's personal path to success with lessons for all of us. Thank you for allowing us a moment of your time. More grease to your elbow. May you go from strength to strength. And I look forward to seeing you in the near future.
Thank you, Uzo. I've really enjoyed this time together. Thanks. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Iweala, for sharing your time and your insights with us here today. But once you have heard from a man and heard him speak about himself, you've only heard one side of the story. To expand on that picture, I would say that we should hear from his friends and colleagues. First, let's hear from a man that the author greatly admires. Here's what he said about him. During the 12-year period that we worked together as CEO and deputy, Herbert and I have never had a divergence of views or position on issues of corporate governance or risk management, and I am constantly thanking God for giving me wisdom in choosing my deputy. He was my friend and professional colleague for 10 years before we came together at Access, and he is a tremendously gifted and respected banker. But the basis for my choice for this second pair of eyes was my confidence that we shared the same beliefs and values regarding how a bank should be run. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Mr. Herbert Wigwe.
I once said to Aig, if you live to be 100, I want to live to be 100 minus one day so that I'll never have to live without you. I meant every word of what I said because we've built a very strong personal relationship, a strong career partnership that has transformed into brotherhood. I'd like to take you back and look at the story of Leaving the Tarmac. I mean, this could have happened to several of us who were in Unity schools in 1976 or 1977. A group of children waiting on the tarmac for an aircraft in Kaduna, planning to come home perhaps for Christmas or some holiday, and it was typically an F-28. And they got onto the gangway of the aircraft, trying to get in, and were bullied because those planes came once or twice in a week. And this 10-year-old kid, Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, couldn't get on the plane, and he was then left sobbing. Now, the issue was not that he couldn't get home, but the fact that he was forced out. And for him, that became his creed, which is that he will never be left on any tarmac for that matter in life. Aig and I come from pretty much identical backgrounds. We went to school in the same part of the country. He went to school in Federal Government College, Kaduna. I went to school in Federal Government College, Sokoto. And what that has done for us, it has introduced significant diversity as far as we live our lives, understanding different cultures, religion, friendships that have been built across the whole country. As well as our strong friendship, we had also built a very strong professional relationship. I mean, even before Access Bank, all the way in GT, which by the way is one of the most interesting and formidable institutions in the country, we were there for ourselves. He would be there to support me if I had problems. I would also be there if there was any issue that he required that I supported him with, and we'll do it. So we have both done everything that is required to support ourselves. Obviously, running a bank has tested our relationship, has tested us professionally, has tested us in terms of the relationship itself. But for each of these tests, it has made us so much stronger. Aig shares in his book and says that we ran the bank the same way Israeli soldiers go to war which is the fact that the generals lead from the front. I tell you, the risk of that strategy is the fact that sometimes your generals can get shot. Whilst trying to raise capital and doing that combination, I took ill, and he was very ill. Now, literally, it also means that in the theater of all that battle, your commander-in-chief was shot. I never felt that lonely and vulnerable like I did when he was absent. Not because we couldn't complete it, but we had never been separate in any of those battles that we had had to fight. All the challenges we've been through have strengthened our friendship and our determination to succeed continuously, without fail. We've been through very difficult times, but we've also been blessed with extremely successful careers, even if I say so myself. Aig may have retired formally, but he's still totally committed to the bank and remains completely vested in the institution. And to me, he remains my accountability partner. My dearest friend, you have filled the years with worship, with humility, with achievement, with awards, with determination, laughter, loyalty, and a wonderful family. And now a book that shares some of your extraordinary life with many fortunate readers. I think we are truly blessed to witness the launch of this book. This morning, as I dressed up, coming to work, I didn't realize. I thought I was just being unnecessarily emotional. Tears dropped out of my face, and I just said, wow, see how far we've gotten. And it only came because as I reflected on our history and I reflected on the contents of this book, there were so many reasons to thank God. Congratulations, my brother. Today is truly a very special day for all of us. God bless you, Aig.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wigwe. And now to provide further insight into the man behind the book, allow me to introduce a gentleman who put his impression of Leaving the Tarmac so perfectly in his review, and I quote, Aigboje has written a book that is a record of an important part of the history of Nigerian banking in a lucid and a jargon-free manner, along the way telling a story of Nigerian economic history, about regulatory reforms, and about key actors in the government, the central bank, the banking industry, and big business, with whom it was his lot to interact over the decades. Let's all welcome His Highness Mohammed Sanusi II.
Aig-Imoukhuede first came to my attention in 2007-2008. I was Executive Director of First Bank of Nigeria in charge of risk and management control. I do remember in 2008 in particular when I looked at the books of Access Bank and realized that this was a bank that had the potential for being the biggest bank in the country. It was after consolidation, the bank had the highest compound average growth rate in assets. It had very low cost-income ratios. It was in all the right things. 50% of its managers were female. It was talking about sustainable finance. It already had technology for applications for auto loans. It occurred to me that this was a forward-looking progressive bank that was decades ahead of the industry. And I knew at that point it was a bank to keep an eye on. When I became governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, we were faced with a major banking crisis. We had special examination of all the banks. And although Access Bank did have, like other banks, losses in the middle market and the capital market, those losses did not put the bank in a grave situation, and we saw no evidence of governance failures or fraud. I considered Access the bank of the future, and I was not proven wrong. After that, the bank remained a key element in all the activities that we ran at Central Bank. Aig-Imoukhuede was chairman of the Bankers Committee's subcommittee on economic development. He worked with us on ensuring that the banking sector contributed to economic growth by lending to agriculture, setting up NERSO, refinancing loans to small and medium enterprises, payment systems reforms, and all the other initiatives that we had in those 5 years when I was governor of the central bank. One of the major contributions of Aig to my term as governor of the central bank was the decision of Access to take over Intercontinental Bank. which was one of the banks that we had taken over and handed over to the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. A very big bank with a huge deposit base that had been so badly managed that nobody wanted to take it. It took a lot of courage, a lot of diligence, a lot of strength, in my view, for Access to take that decision. And that decision has turned Access now into one of the biggest banks in the country and on the continent. A number of incidents come to mind when I think of Ike in those 5 years, some of which were not mentioned in the book. One of the anecdotes that I have was his experience with the federal government, where he was appointed chairman of a committee to examine the leakages in all revenues around subsidy regime. He carried out a comprehensive exercise, uncovered significant fraud in the subsidy system, actually discovered that people claimed subsidy on vessels that never came to Nigeria on the dates that they were supposed to come. Using technology and intelligence, he was able to bring out and identify those who had defrauded the system. Unfortunately, he did this at great personal risk. Rather than thank him, he became a victim of attacks. He was seen as undermining the government. And I admire his courage, I admire his principles, I admire the fact that he was able to stand up to vested interests, even at great risk to himself. These are the kind of values that I think have helped Access become what it became. And I add to that, obviously, the very common, very tight relationship between him and Herbert Wigwe, the common values that they have, the complete confidence that they have in each other. And this has led to a smooth transition that would work in favor of Access in the future. I congratulate Ike for this book, and I commend it as reading for anyone interested in the history of the Nigerian economy and the banking system over the period.
Thank you, gentlemen, for those very kind words. We turn now to the future. What does a successful businessman do once he has conquered the foothills of finance and reached the summit of banking in Nigeria? Well, if you're an author, you take a look around and you find something else to do, something that may help your fellow Nigerians enormously. You go out there and you take on the healthcare system. Here to tell you all about that is Aigboje himself.
Our goal is to establish a chain of primary healthcare centers, PHCs, across each of Nigeria's 774 local governments to provide low-cost health services at decent standards to the poor and vulnerable. Adopters will adopt each healthcare center and take responsibility for all aspects of its performance during the adoption period, which in the first instance is for 5 years. The ADHFP is a multi-impact initiative with several benefits for Nigeria, including a reduction in mortality rates, the creation of new jobs, entrepreneurship and startup opportunities, improved public sector accountability, female gender empowerment, increased uptake of health insurance. With COVID-19 beaming a spotlight on our health system weaknesses, the pandemic has reinforced, with devastating effect, the reasons why we conceived of this program in the first place. It has become evident to Nigerians that our primary health system must be fixed urgently. Otherwise, our people may continue to die needlessly. Serious work is ongoing to make this vision a reality. The work is led by the Private Sector Health Alliance of Nigeria, founded by Aliko Dangote, Jim Ovia, myself, and others who have rallied to the cause. To this end, profits from the sale of my book, Leaving the Tarmac, will be channeled to the Adopt a Healthcare Facility program. It takes a nation's own people to fix its problems. So what are we waiting for? Let's join forces and become partners in the business of saving lives.
What more reason do you need? You buy this book, you contribute to the improvement of healthcare for your fellow citizens. What an initiative, and what a contribution. Hey, and don't forget, you also get to learn from an entrepreneur, not just anyone, but one who went out there and did it, who went out there, bought a bank, and created something truly spectacular. So now, from a man with a spectacular vision to a lady with a lovely voice and an inspiring message, here's Tenny with her smash hit, Uyo Mayo.
Kajo, 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 kayo, kayo, kayo. Uyo me ya le uosa okami o. Uyo me ya, uyo me ya, oh uyo me ya le uosa okami o. Uyo me ya, uyo me ya. Everybody's born a winner, yeah, yeah. If only you just believe, yeah, yeah. Close your eyes and come and see, yeah, yeah. Don't you worry about a thing, God. 'Cause if you work hard, you can get it if you want. If you strive hard, you can be just what you want. If you work hard, you can climb the mountain top. 'Cause nothing is too small and nothing is too big. Uyo meya, uyo meya, oh uyo, uyo meya le uosa okami o. Uyo meya, uyo meya, oh uyo, uyo meya le uosa okami o. What my eyes have seen, oh yeah. Ohun tójú mi tẹ̀lé, yeah, yeah. Don't let them tell you you can't, and they won't help you, that's all you know. Just keep on pushing, oh. If it's daddy me, oh, my debe ma tukada. If it's mommy me, oh, my debe ma tukada. Ori, ori mi jawa, ori lana komi, oh. Ori mi mas, uya meya. Mo ṣerere láyé mi á, mo ṣerere. Mo ṣoríire láyé mi o, mo ṣoríire. Mo ṣerere láyé mi á. Ibi tí dádì mi ò dé, adé bẹ́ẹ̀ bá tún kọjá. Ibi tí mọ́mí mi ò dé, adé bẹ́ẹ̀ bá tún kọjá. Orí mi jà wá, orí lánà kò mí o. Orí, orí, uyo meya, oh. Gogoro tẹ́ni dé o, tẹ́ni dé o, tẹ́ni ẹ̀dùn làmọ́ o, tẹ́ni ọmọ Fọláyé, tẹ́ni ọmọ Fọláyé, ọmọ Fọládògún yé, tẹ́ni ẹ̀dùn làmọ́. Ìdè bàbá yà ó, ìyá bàná ó, ọmọ aládé méjì náà. fanda la ye mi amo yo fanda. Tani oshorire la ye mi yo oshorire. Oshorire la ye mi oshorire.
Once again, Tenny reminds us that passion and commitment will pay off in the end. Just like this book, it will serve as a reminder and a source of encouragement, of possibility, of hope, and inspiration. And so once more, I go back to the words of the author. I had entrepreneurial juices running in my veins, and there was nothing I could do about it. If in your heart you want to work for yourself, then you'll never be happy working for someone else, no matter how good the job or how highly respected your employer might be. I hope that this story I have told will be an inspiration to other young entrepreneurs who are setting out with big dreams, great visions, and high hopes. This is a momentous occasion for me and for everyone who has been a part of this story. I look forward to sharing my Access Bank story with Nigeria, Africa, and the world. It has been my privilege to spend this time with you today. Thank you. In closing, let's draw our experience from this moment here today and set our sights on the future.
Never again would I be left behind on the tarmac.
My deep and sincere appreciation to the love of my life, my wife Ofoe, my children Ohiozoje, Aima, Morenike, and Renua, my business partner Herbert, and all my colleagues at Access Bank. To God be the glory.